What's up, all you mentees? Uncanny Omar here from Near Mint Condition, the home of collected editions. And today is, well, it's one of my favorite segments. Today is my Hidden Gems segment, where I talk about 5 graphic novels, or trade paperbacks, or collected editions that don't get a lot of recognition, or I don't hear enough people talk about. So join me. And welcome back, everybody. So this is one of my favorite segments. It's where I just pull out 5 books from my bookshelves and get to talk about them with you all. And whether you've heard of these or not, leave the comments down below. Let me know what else you consider a hidden gem that you don't see a lot of people give recognition to, or you don't hear anybody really talk about. That's the whole point of this. And thank you so much to all of you that comment every time with ideas or books that you suggest that you think are hidden gems. Sometimes I've read them, sometimes I haven't even heard of them, so I add them to a list and eventually I'll get around to reading them. So before getting started, please don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe, and ring that bell for notifications. That really does help with our YouTube algorithm. And why aren't you being notified of our videos? We put out videos every day. Alright, let's go ahead and get started with my very first choice. Hadrians Wall by Ram V, Anand RK, and Aditya Beautykar. So this was published by Dark Horse, and this is also the expanded edition, and it is an all-in-one. This one does have mature themes, and as always on my videos, I do try to tell people what the age group is for reading these books. Ram V, of course, famous for his run on the Savage Shores, which is freaking phenomenal. That series was published by Vault Comics, and currently he is co-writing the Venom series. He's writing Swamp Thing, Justice League Dark. He is just all over the place, and I love it. This is one of his earlier releases that was published here in America by Dark Horse. It had been previously published somewhere in the UK. So this is all set in the slums of Mumbai. And it's pretty much taking the lives of 4 young people that are struggling to make it in this particular city. And I remember Ram V once describing Mumbai as a city with all these people that live in it, but the amount of space they all have is tiny. And man, this one really hit close to home. Because originally I come from Peru, and I have friends that we were all trying to escape in our own way. So let me just quickly talk about these 4 characters. So you do have the character of Graffiti. He is the graffiti artist. He's the one that is escaping with his art. And that's not his real name. You get to find out his real name when his father and his mother call him by his real name. And then in the first story, you meet Jay. Also not his real name. That's just what he goes by. Who's a young man of so many dreams and wants to be a rapper. And he's kind of lured into this path of becoming a gangster in this particular city. And then each story intertwines. So in the third story, you get to find out more about this character that we were introduced to earlier, and that is Chasma. And Chasma is he's your awkward kid. He wants to be a writer. So he's waiting tables to pay for classes. And when I mean he wants to be a writer, he's practicing by sending letters to anybody in the city. And then the last character is Saira, and she comes to Mumbai with the dreams of becoming a Bollywood actress. But first she has to survive in this horrible reality of gangsters and people that want to take advantage of her. And like I said, all these stories intertwine with each other, and it's just a beautiful story about friendship and survival and dreaming and keeping that dream alive. And this came out a couple of years ago, and I got it a couple of years ago, and for some reason I didn't get to read it until late last year, and man, it just blew me away. It was a wonderful read. I cannot suggest this highly enough. I don't hear enough praise for it. Now, let's talk about the artwork by Anand RK, because the artwork is one of those things that may turn people away from the book because it doesn't look realistic. It looks maybe too cartoony. To me, it kind of reminds me of art by the great Paul Pope or even Taiyo Matsumoto. And actually a nice mix of both of those. But I love how realistic the city is, how dirty, how cluttered it is. And like I said, this one reminds me a lot of my childhood in Peru, and not growing up with a lot of things, and just my friends and I trying to just escape by daydreaming, and one of them was an artist, and I was the funny guy. Anyway, it reminded me of those childhood friends, the bonds that, well, they were supposed to last forever, but we didn't have social media back then. So, yeah, this is to Ricardo, Miguel, and Maria Rosa, all of my friends in Peru. But absolutely, go and pick this up. It is a wonderful read, and I would almost say, yes, it is a little bit of a slice of life mixed in with the realism of how dark and evil life can be, too. Beckstar by Joe Corallo and Lorenzo Corangeli. This is published by Mad Cave Studios, and I had the pleasure to interview Joe on one of my videos last year, and we bonded over our love of just the history of comics and just how much we both love these characters. So it's really cool to get to talk to somebody like that also gets to create stories. Beckstar is the story of this space mercenary who has kind of given away that life. She was kind of like your Indiana Jones type of character. She used to have 3 different friends, and one of them being Anissa, who was very important to her, but they all went their separate ways once they found this treasure, and she got to keep one of the treasures called, well, she calls it the Lucky Dagger. Well, with that Lucky Dagger, now she has become a full-time gambler. So the only person that she really hangs out with these days is her crewmate and, well, her only friend, Sally. So through a series of events, as she's gambling, she's encountering this one particular strange girl by the name of Paprika, who has just appeared out of nowhere, and she's telling her news that Mordecai is after her and is planning universal domination. Now, who is Mordecai? Well, Mordecai was also somebody she was linked to in her past. So it's like her past is coming back to haunt her, and she has to go and try to find Anissa, if she's still out there somewhere. She seems to think she knows where she is. Recover some of these artifacts. Anyway, it's your space adventure, sci-fi slash Blade Runner type of story. It really, what it reminds me of the most is those 80s and 90s anime OVAs that I would rent from the store. And as a matter of fact, Lorenzo's artwork really captures that anime feel with the overexpression of the facial features. But I found this to be quite fun. It's a quick read, I will say that. I think the art really fit the type of story that Joe was telling. I would love to see a continuation of the story, but this is all we have so far, this one volume. But again, this is Beckstar. This one here is for older teens, by the way, just because of strong language and some of the violence. But again, published by Mad Cave Studios. Kanto by Dave Brewer and Drew Sucker from IDW. So finally we have a book that is all ages. I had a mature book with Hadrians Wall and then the older teen with Beckstar, but now we have one that I think anybody can read. Now there is just a little bit of dark elements in here, but I swear, this to me feels like an all-ages book. I would have been fine reading this at 8, 9 years old, and I didn't have a problem with my kids reading this. This is a book that came to me a couple of years ago from IDW. They were kind enough to send me this copy, and I was just blown away by how much I fell in love with it. So this is all set in the world of Arcana. This is the story of all these little clockwork people and this particular clockwork knight who is named Kanto. Now in this world, these people have been enslaved for generations. All these little tin men have been enslaved for generations. They once had hearts, and those hearts, when they're born, are replaced by these ticking clocks. Through here, you get to find out why they were enslaved. Oh, and the one thing that makes Kanto stand out, too, is that in this world, these little tin people do not have names. They are not supposed to have any names. Kanto is given the name Kanto from this tin lady that has captured his eyes, and she is very fond of him. So she decided to call him Kanto. And the adventure really begins with her because, well, these enslavers damage her to the point where he now has to go and find a way to save her. So he decides to get up and go on this life or death journey to go in search of the real hearts that were taken from them. And that's what this is about. It is a beautiful story. There's a story within a story that inspires him to keep moving. And the artwork is just absolutely stunning. Cartoony. Yeah, sure, it's cartoony, but it has to be. However, like I said, there's some dark elements in here, especially when you're talking about taking the hearts from these 10 people. There's a lot of love and passion that goes into each of these panels, and I think Drew Zucker is just the perfect match for Dave Booher's story. Now, this has 3 volumes that have been already published. There's another one on the way, so it's not an all-in-one, but believe me, when you read this, you'll see that this one has enough of a closing that you're okay with the ending, but you'll want to continue it. Again, this is Kanto. I'm sure you probably have heard of this one, but absolutely, again, reminding you to go and check it out. Hopefully IDW one day will give us some kind of oversized hardcover when all the story is done. Hadrian's Wall by Kyle Higgins, Alex Siegel, and Rod Reyes. This one was published by Image Comics. This is, unlike Kanto, this is an all-in-one. Everything you need is in this particular trade paperback, and it's only released in trade. This is a mature story, though, unlike Kanto, which is for all ages. Now, this is another wall story. I just talked about Graffiti's Wall, so this one's Hadrian's Wall. And does it have anything to do with the Roman Empire Wall? Well, maybe a little bit. So this is all set in the year 2085, and it's after the US and the Soviet Union have declared a truce and colonized space together. A new war, however, is starting to brew between Earth and one of the colonies named Theta. So Simon Moore, he is an investigator here on Earth in this particular year, and he suffered an injury in his past, and this injury has made him addicted to pills. So he takes these painkillers to keep him, I don't want to say alive, but to keep him from feeling the amount of pain. And this injury is talked about in here. Now, he is sent to Hadrian's Wall to investigate the death of an astronaut. This astronaut's name is Edward. And Hadrian's Wall is this exploratory ship. It's out there exploring different planets to see where else we can go and colonize. Now, he goes against his will because he really doesn't want to go and do this job. He's fine on Earth. He's letting the taxpayers pay for his pills, but he is offered $100,000. And I think what really makes him go up and take this job is what I enjoy about this most of all. One night, he gets a phone call, and it's his ex-wife, Annabelle. And Annabelle is a crew member on the ship, and she's calling Simon to beg him, do not take this job. I do not want to be around you. I don't want to be near you. And this was just an accidental death. Annabelle is also the wife of the astronaut that died at the beginning of the story. So it complicates things. So he decides to just go up there and take this mission. And what's supposed to be something that was, hey, just go and check, just mark it as an accidental death, turns into what may be a conspiracy, that there might be an interstellar Cold War that's happening, and he is caught in the middle of this. I thought this story was really well done. The characters were very well developed. I will, if I'm 100% serious with you all right now, well, I guess I always am. It wasn't until I reread this last week that it turned out that it was Rod Reyes that drew this. I always thought in my head that it was Phil Noto because they have a very similar style. They have that realistic, like, minimal detail style with just like a painted look on top of it. And in my head, I thought, oh yeah, that's right. That's the book with Phil Noto. He's the one that drew it. Nope, it's Rod Reyes. Of course, Rod Reyes went on to do other things. But yeah, this one here, if you like mystery, whodunit with a mix of science fiction, absolutely for you. And I think this is one that I'm surprised not a lot of people talk about either. So, recommending Hadrian's Wall. Last but not least, Caliban by Garth Ennis and Facundo Pericio, published by Avatar. So, it's getting to be October. it's getting to be creepy Halloween season, and I love talking about horror type of books. And you know what? It's the last book. Let's sneak it in there. So that's exactly what this is. This is your mix of sci-fi and horror. This is a story that I don't hear many people talk about. It's an all-in-one. Everything you need is in this particular book. This one definitely has mature content, though. Now, I decided to put this one in here. This is, of course, from Garth Ennis. This is a gentleman that did, of course, Preacher and The Boys and Hitman and Punisher. But I think this is the first time I've seen him do anything with horror elements and aliens at that. So I was like, oh yeah, let me talk about this particular book. So this all takes place in this possible future and inside of this ship called the Caliban. Now, does that have to do with Shakespeare and Tempest? Maybe. So in this ship, it's a mining ship. So the crew is like a maintenance crew they're all staying awake while the miners are asleep. And while they're hitting hyperspace, something happens. They hit another ship, and these two ships have just merged with each other. So the crew, the maintenance crew that are awake, have to go and explore to see exactly what happened. Now, one of the things they notice right away is that since this accident happened and these two ships have merged, some of the crewmates have been absorbed by the ship and have become a part of the mechanics of the ship. It's kind of gross. There's a lot of awesome and disturbing imagery through here. And the other big thing is that all the miners that were in cryogenic sleep have been lost in space. A giant hole has appeared and all the miners were shoved into space. So now it is this small crew that's trying to put things together and get out of this situation. Well, one of them discovers what appears to be a giant alien behind this closet door. However, when it comes to touching this alien, the alien just falls apart and turns into dust. So what could possibly be out there that could have done this? Now, this quickly goes from, oh crap, we have this giant hole on this ship that has sucked all these people that were sleeping that we were supposed to take to this particular planet, but we're also losing oxygen, and on top of that, one by one, the crew is getting killed off in horrible ways. So something or someone is stalking them. So it turns into a horror type of story that you've seen a lot before. If you like movies like Alien, Leviathan, Predator, Sunshine, The Thing, Mimic, movies like that, or video games like Dead Space or Enemy Zero, you're gonna love this. Again, yes, it's a very common story we've seen before. The who's going around and killing these crew members one by one. But I thought it was enjoyable. Again, it's Garth Ennis, and just with a horror element twist, I really like the characters. And the art by Facundo is just perfect because there's a lot of panels in here that get stuck in your head because these people die in horrific ways. So this is Caliban, published by Avatar, and if you're interested in purchasing any of these books, check out our sponsors. If you live in Europe and are interested in buying and pre-ordering Omnis, then you should definitely check out Walt's Comic Shop in Berlin, Germany. They have the cheapest pre-order prices for Marvel and DC books within the EU, flat rate shipping of €12 for all EU countries, bulletproof packaging, and all emails will be answered within 24 hours. They offer a huge selection of out-of-print books. Just head over to waltzcomicshop.com for more great deals and rare titles. And for a limited time, you can use the code nearmintcon, all one word at the checkout, to get free shipping for all EU countries with your first order of over €40. Walt's Comic Shop, your reliable source for Omnis and premium collected editions in Europe. CheapGraphicNovels.com, your online home for graphic novels and collected editions up to 50% off cover price. They have excellent shipping and prompt and helpful service. Check out their bargain deals for up to 90% off cover price. And don't forget that CGN also takes pre-orders. That way you don't miss out on the hottest releases. And they are currently running a special promotion for you Minties. If you're a first-time customer, after receiving your order confirmation email, reply back to that email and let them know Near Mint Condition sent you their way. They will then apply a free shipping promotional credit to your next order in the US. Cheap Graphic Novels, your source for the hottest books with the kind of deep discount, quality shipping, and customer service that will keep you coming back for more. And that was my hidden gems for the month of September of 2022. Let me know in the comments down below if you have read any of the, I don't know why I'm looking over here, they're not here anymore. If you've read any of these books, what you think about them, what books you would suggest that I read as far as hidden gems, whether you just read them last week or today, or whether they've been out for decades or they came out last week, it doesn't matter. I love talking about graphic novels, and I love to talk about books that hardly get enough of a spotlight. Cannot wait for next month, because that's going to be hard. It's always hard in October when I get to look at my bookshelf and I'm like, which horror-centric books do I get to pick out this year? Anyway, smash that like button, subscribe, check out our Patreon, check out our spread shop, amazing ways to support the channel. All that information is in the description of the video. Everyone stay healthy and safe out there. Much love.